Jeg hedder Mickey Kromann-Jensen, og jeg er stifter af Studysea. Studysea vil jeg gerne fortælle jer kort om, hvad vi er for en type organisation. Og ellers jamen, så handler webinaret i dag om at studere i USA, og der har vi vi er kommet, kan man sige, i fint selskab for vores samarbejdspartner. Into kommer til at få ordet her om et par minutter. Awisha, som vil fortælle omkring de muligheder, der er for at studere i USA generelt, men også omkring de muligheder, der er igennem Into. Og jeg skal også nok kort forklare, hvad Into egentlig er, fordi det er hvad kan man sige, ikke noget, der lige er så nemt lige sådan at forklare det. Der er i hvert fald mange, der har spørgsmål til det, men det skal nok lige komme ind på om lidt, og Awisha skal selvfølgelig nok uddybe. Men ellers så er det sådan, at dagsordenen den ser sådan her ud, altså hvad er Studysea, hvordan hjælper vi, så kommer, jeg ved ikke om vi kan kalde det universitetspræsentation, men destinationspræsentationer, også præsentation af Into og de universiteter, som Into repræsenterer i USA. Og efter Awishas præsentation, så vil jeg også fortælle omkring de offentlige og private finansieringsmuligheder, der er til, når man gerne vil studere i udlandet. Og i forhold til spørgsmål og svar, spørgsmål og svar, Q&A, så vil vi meget gerne besvare spørgsmål til sidst i oplægget her, i webinaret. Så hvad er det Studysea hjælper med? Altså vi er en privat virksomhed. Jeg står her i Odense på vores kontor. Vi har kontor nede i Odense Havn, men vi hjælper studerende fra hele landet og nogle gange også fra andre lande med at komme ud i verden og studere. Rigtig meget af vores vejledning foregår enten over e-mail eller over nettet eller over telefon. Vi er repræsentant, altså Studysea er officiel repræsentant for over 70 universiteter. Vi har faktisk samarbejdet med mere end 80 anerkendte udenlandske universiteter, som vi kan hjælpe jer til i udlandet. En ret stor andel af de universiteter, vi samarbejder med, er i samarbejde via Into, som jo er med her i dag, og mange af dem er også i USA. Det gode ved vores vejledning, det er, at den er gratis for jer som studerende, hvis I overvejer at søge ind på en af de skoler, som vi samarbejder med. Og det skyldes jo, at det er de skoler, universiteter og colleges, som vi samarbejder med, som finansierer vores arbejde. Det er selvfølgelig ikke gratis desværre at studere i udlandet, det er det herhjemme, det er det de færreste steder i udlandet, og slet ikke i USA. Der er jo noget, der hedder en studieafgift, også kaldt tuition fees, som selvfølgelig koster noget, når man vil studere i udlandet. Det andet, vi gør ved Studysea, det er formidling af praktik i udlandet. Det er en helt anden snak, og det er noget, vi formidler via nogle praktikpakker. Praktikpakker koster penge. Det er ikke sådan, at vi har desværre ikke lykkes med at få de forskellige virksomheder og praktiksteder til at finansiere den del. Men hvis I er interesseret i praktik, ja, så har vi specifikt webinar omkring det, som også kan findes på vores YouTube-kanal. Hvordan hjælper Studysea? Det kan være noget af en jungle, når man sådan har fået en tanke eller idé om, man rigtig gerne, eller en drøm om, man rigtig gerne vil til udlandet og studere. Jamen, hvor starter man henne? Det er et godt spørgsmål. Det er heldigvis noget, vi til dagligt gør her, og hjælper rigtig mange med, og har prøvet mange gange før. Og derfor kan du jo heldigvis med fordel få hjælp fra os, og det er egentlig både fra, ja, måske har du bare tanken og gerne vil vide, hvordan kommer jeg i gang, hvordan finder jeg et match i forhold til universitet, i forhold til uddannelse, i forhold til tegnebogen eller pengepunkten. Økonomi og budget skal også gå op i en enhed for det her til at kunne lade sig gøre. Hvor kan jeg komme ind i forhold til de karakterer, jeg har osv. Så fra første tanke, vejledningsstadiet, der er vi her, så tag endelig fat i os. I har mulighed for at booke personlig vejledningsmøde. Det er i de fleste tilfælde mig, som du vil tale med omkring det. Og så prøver vi at se, om vi kan finde frem til noget, der matcher. Lykkes vi med det, og er du interesseret i at gå videre, så er vi i næste step, som hedder ansøgningsstadiet. Og det er altså, hvor vi dels skal søge ind til universitetet i udlandet, men jo også kan have nogle sideløbende ansøgningsprocesser i gang samtidig. Det kan være SU-ansøgning, fordi at man skal, hvis man ønsker at få SU, jamen så skal uddannelsen godkendes af SU. Det er selvfølgelig også noget, vi hjælper med. Så er det, hvis vi taler studieophold, jamen så er det ens egen uddannelsesinstitution i Danmark, som skal godkende de fag, man læser i udlandet. Det kalder man forhåndsgodkendelse, og det er også noget, vi hjælper med at indhente al den dokumentation, der skal bruges i den sammenhæng. Det er sådan, at over 98% af dem, der søger ind igennem så Studysea, de bliver faktisk optaget. Så det er jo super positivt. Der er selvfølgelig forskel på, om man søger ind på et semester, eller man søger ind på en hel uddannelse, og ligeledes er der selvfølgelig også forskel på, om man søger medicin. Det er bestemt ikke 98% af dem, vi hjælper med at søge ind på medicin, som bliver optaget. Så på den måde er der selvfølgelig forskel også. Men vi kender vores universiteter godt, og ofte vil vi også det er ikke os, der, hvad kan man sige, tager beslutninger, om du bliver optaget eller ej, men oftest vil vi have en rimelig god idé om, hvorvidt det er muligt eller ej på det pågældende universitet at blive optaget. Når man er optaget, så kommer vi ind i det, der hedder pre-departure-stadiet, og der får I fra Studysea en pre-departure guide, som er specifik til det land, du skal til. Der er en masse praktisk information, hvor formålet er at forberede dig bedst muligt til at rejse afsted. Så det er alt fra forsikring til boligsøgning til visumansøgning og så videre, som man skal have styr på, før man rejser. Under hele det her forløb her, der har man adgang til personlig vejledning fra Studysea, så hvis der er noget, der ikke giver mening, eller man har brug for lidt ekstra hjælp, så kan man altid tage fat i os. Socialt, jamen i hvert fald på vores sådan mest populære destinationer, der har vi også Facebook-grupper, og dem bliver man også inviteret til, når man er optaget, og kan så connecte med andre, der skal afsted, eller måske er på samme destination, eller har været der før. Legatansøgninger. Vi skriver ikke din legatansøgning, men vi giver dig gerne et eksempel på en god legatansøgning. Vi kan hjælpe dig med vejledende budgetter eller budgetskabeloner. Og selvfølgelig henvise til nogle af de steder, hvor du finder de her rigtig mange fonde, som man kan søge, blandt andet fra Danmark, til støtte til at finansiere uddannelse i udlandet. Når du har styr på alt det praktiske, så rejser du ud, og så er det heldigvis rigtig god support, du vil kunne få fra vores universiteter. De har typisk internationale kontorer og så videre, som tager godt hånd af de studerende, vi nu sender ud. Men skulle der opstå noget, hvor du har behov for hjælp, så er du altid velkommen også til at tage kontakt til os, selvom du er rejst afsted. Ofte kan det være, hvis man har brug for en form for dokumentation, for eksempel til SU. Når I har gennemført uddannelsen eller opholdet, så er I egentlig en del af vores alumne-netværk. Og der har vi også lidt forskellige fordele for vores alumner, altså som består af tidligere studerende, tidligere praktikanter, vi har sendt ud i verden. Det er både, vi har dels en Facebook-gruppe, vi har en LinkedIn-gruppe, så man kan connecte med andre. Vi har også lidt rabatfordele. Det er sådan blandt andet, vi har en kaffebar her på vores fra samme lokale her i Odense, hvor vi har vores kontor. Der er selvfølgelig rabat til vores alumner. Vi plejer at have en sommerfest en gang om året. Den har desværre ikke været her de sidste 2 år på grund af corona. Det håber vi selvfølgelig igen fra næste år kunne tilbyde at have igen. Men ellers er der sådan lidt forskelligt. Der er lidt rabat på forsikring og sådan ting. Yes. Jamen, det var bare sådan lige kort omkring Studysea. Nu vil jeg jo præsentere the guest of honor, the speaker of today, Awisha Bashir from Into. And Awisha is the regional manager for Europe and UK, and will present a little bit more about Into and about studying in the US. And I think with that, let's try to see if we can get your presentation up on the screen here, Awisha.
Thanks a lot. It was lovely actually listening to you, even though I couldn't understand a word you were saying. But it was very, very entertaining. Your language is absolutely beautiful. So if you stop sharing, I think I'll be able to then share my, that's it, perfect. Then I will share mine. So share screen. Right. In a second, you're probably going to see my bit messy desktop, but don't worry. From the beginning.
Yeah, I'm going to mute myself, sorry.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I am Awisha, as Mickey mentioned. I'm the Regional Office Manager for Europe and the UK at Inter University Partnerships. And yeah, I'll be talking to you today about the destination being the US and why it's amazing to study there, but in particular, why at one of our universities, and like why invest your time, money, effort, and everything by going to the US, studying at one of our universities, and what you get out of it. So it's not just the academic experience, it's the whole package that you'll be getting. So hopefully I won't bore you to death. Hopefully, if anything, I'll be exciting you and getting you to pack your bags as soon as possible, come and join us as soon as possible. So to start, this is just a bit of an icebreaker. So everybody, if you'd like, you can unmute yourselves or such, or you can pop your answers in the chat. Don't worry if you get numbers or figures wrong. I myself, before doing this little research, didn't know them. So it's literally just a bit of fun just to break the ice. So when it comes to universities, does anybody have like a guess, like how many universities there are worldwide? Anyone want to shout an answer? Mickey, do you want to have a guess and think how many universities? And literally, as I said, I didn't know myself.
Oh, you're challenging me. I would say 10,000.
Okay, you're not far off actually. There's over 16,000, so not quite close. And when I first thought of it, I was like, 30, 40, just thinking about the world. But so I was very far off. So yeah, 16,000. If we break that down, there's over 130 universities in the UK. There's over 2,500 universities in China. But then in the US, there's over 4,200 universities. So when we're saying, oh, I want to go and study in the US, you are lost for choice, basically. I'm just going to move this over here so I can see the rest of my screen. Perfect. So when you are considering studying in the US and going there and choosing your courses, there are a number of things that you need to take into consideration. So what is the right choice for you? So what might be important to myself might be a priority to you, but it might be not priority number one. So when it comes to like myself, I think about ranking, the university's reputation and such. For another student, it might be, I want to study something that I'm going to get my hands dirty, basically. I want a practical experience. I don't want to sit in a lecture and be spoken at. For another person, it might be the environment and surroundings and, becoming more independent and such. So there are a number of things that might differ from one person to another. But basically, hopefully, whatever you are looking for in terms of courses, experience, and so forth, I'm sure we have an option for you, because we do work with 16 universities in the US, and there's a number of affiliates as well. So the US, it's huge. It's actually 18 times bigger than France. And with that, their population is, back when they did the survey in 2018, it was 328 million, and actually it increased by 10 million from when they did the survey back in 2014. And if we compare that just to the UK, you might have guessed from my accent that I am British, I'm based in the UK and such. We're a population back in 2018, we were 64.7 million, which also had increased since 2014, but not as extreme. It was only increased by 500,000. And of course, it must have increased even from 2018. Now, why I'm saying the population, how big it is and everything, is basically you really are going to, each state you visit, it's like entering a different country. It's got its own atmosphere, its environment, its culture, its traditions. Even the climate can differ dramatically from one state to the other. And even though I do love the UK, I love it to bits, it's my home. However, whether I'm based in Brighton, which is like an hour from London, whether I'm down south, whether I go up north, I feel like I'm in England. I feel like I'm in the UK. Now, I haven't had the pleasure of living in the US before, but I actually have a sister who has been living there for, I think, around 7 years now or something. And she lives in Texas, absolutely loves the state, loves everything about it. She's based in Dallas. However, she's had the opportunity, due to her husband's work, where so many months they'll be living in a different state and then returning back to that. So she's been to, I was going to say Oregon State. She's been to California. She's been to Seattle. She's been to Washington, New York. And she says basically each state she goes to, she feels like she's entering a different country. And each state she's loved more than the next. So you're going to really open your eyes, open your mind and your surroundings, right? You're really going to absorb so much flavor, whichever state that you get to visit. Oh, I should have mentioned at the beginning, if anybody has any question, maybe Mickey had already mentioned this, but we're going to leave it until the end. So if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the chat and we will get to them. You can put that in Danish, you can put it in English, or you can just like note down your questions and then ask them verbally later on if you like. Good. Now, that's talking about like the kind of living situation, but then why study there? I was talking about like how an amazing time it would be, whether you'd be traveling there or maybe going there on holiday or such, but why study? Now, a lot of our students that come to us, they have just like graduated from high school. Now, some students know exactly what they want to focus on and specialize in and what they want to be in the future. I wouldn't say that was for the vast majority. 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you know, they might know what they want for lunch tomorrow, but do they know where they want to be in 7, 10 years time, basically? And the US is amazing for that because there is so much flexibility. Now, basically, normally like to complete a degree, it can take up to like 4 years, and you can change your major within the first 2 years more than once, basically, because you could be still finding yourself. And basically with the US, you're gaining credits. And so depending on the workload that you take on, the course workload, it will determine how long it takes you to finish your degree. So the nice thing about the US is within those first 2 years, you are taking some general education and some core material, but then in the final 2 years, that's where it becomes far more advanced and specialized. So the nice thing about that is you do have that flexibility. Also, you can transfer from one university to the other. And as I was saying about states, like each one is so different from the other. You could do 1 year here and then go to another year, do it another university, and a third year, another university, and so forth. I literally had one student once that she was going to do her master's with us, and she had also done her undergraduate degree in the US. Each year, kid you not, was at a different university, whether that because she was finding a university that suited her best, or she just wanted to gain and taste everything as much as possible, who knows. But you can also, that's option number one, you can also add a minor. Now, you might be a person that has a hobby on the side. You might be good at something at school, but not something you really want to major in, but you still want to take it on. Then you could do a minor, and they don't have to be really related. As an example, you could do a bachelor's in international relations with a minor in French, for example, or be in electrical engineer with a minor in music. If you really know what you want to specialize and you want to focus on, then you can do that as well. So you could have, for example, a bachelor's in business with a focus in accounting or marketing. You could even take it one step further if you're that dedicated and do a double major. And again, it doesn't have to be anything related. You could have a bachelor in economics and, for example, in music, or in biology and philosophy, for example. And a really unique thing, I think, I mean, especially when I compare it, for example, to the UK, is these dual degree programs. And so you could, for example, have a bachelor's in science at Drew, and then a bachelor's in engineering at Columbia University. So you've got the best of both worlds. And just to repeat once again, you know, there is a lot of flexibility. You can even take courses and such during the summer to shorten the length that it takes you to graduate. Don't overwhelm yourselves, though, I would say, you know, enjoy the whole experience, basically. But yeah, you can lengthen it or shorten it, really depending on that course workload that you take on board. And just as a note, as I was saying, 3 to 4 years, a lot of students that do like IB or A level programs, they could finish their degree within 3 years, but a lot of students do complete it within 4. Just as a pure example about this whole like dual thing and double majoring, you have this CEO of Apple in Asia, and he went to Drew University. I'll be talking about Drew in a few minutes. He did a double major, and he did it in economics and music. He said that music taught me how to be good in business, and business taught me how to be good in music. Personally speaking, I don't really know what he meant by that, but I can understand why they could benefit each other. So I was thinking like, okay, so if you want to focus on music and you want to build your own industry in that area and such, then of course you need to really be experienced and have that knowledge about music, whatever area you want to specialize in. But then business, if you're thinking of setting up your own thing, your own business, then what not better than to do that, study that as well. So yeah, you can do two things that are completely really unrelated, but related at the same time. So why study with us? So we offer a lot. We offer a lot of courses. Now, earlier, Mickey was saying within the chat that one of you was interested in doing her undergraduate or your undergraduate degree with us, and another one was thinking about masters. We offer both. And on top of that, we also offer English programs as well. Now, for the undergraduate and postgraduate degrees, we offer direct entry. So for example, if you've met the academic criteria and English criteria, you can go on for direct entry, but we also offer something called international direct. I do love international direct because from the word, it is designed for international students in focus. And I'll talk about a bit about the extra support and stuff that goes along with that package. We've of course got transfer programs, and then we've got pathway programs. Now, pathway like International Year 1 or such, or graduate pathway program, they're really, really good because you might want to go to a particular university. It might be due to the ranking or statistics or whatever it may be there, but you haven't met the academic criteria to enter that university. Then a pathway course, whether it be for undergrad or postgrad, is really, really beneficial and helpful because it will bring up that GPA that you require to enter the university. And you still, like if you did International Year 1, you'll still be gaining university credits, so you won't necessarily be adding extra time to finish and graduate. So what will you be getting with us? So as mentioned, you're gaining university credits from day one. There is English that you'll be taking. Now, don't think that it's, oh, possibly, you know, you might be fluent in English or really, really good. And you might think, oh, I don't need extra English. It's not general English. It's not the general English that I'm using right at this moment. It is very academic focused, and it's also focused on whatever area you want. So it could be like business English or something related to engineering or so forth, basically. And even as a home student studying in the UK, I would have benefited from this when I did my master's. As a pure example, I won't go into too much detail, hopefully, but so my mum's from the UK, but my dad's from the Middle East in Libya. Now, I did my undergraduate degree in Libya, and it was very much, you were taught, you did exams at the end of each term, final exam, and you pass, you fail, or whatever it is. And I was very used to that kind of method of styling and teaching. So when I came to the UK to do my master's, it was very much more practical. There was theses, there were essays that I had to do, and I didn't have any written exams at all, which I was completely used to in the past. So that first term, for me, it was a bit overwhelming because even though my mother tongue was English, I was having to use a different type of English where terminology was different, being objected or subjected or something, participating in debates and all this kind of stuff. There was a lot more involved than just speaking the language. So the English modules and such that you'll be taking, it would benefit anybody, whether you be international or not, basically. Thankfully, by the second term, I understood the methods and I did very well by the end of it. But yeah, it was a bit overwhelming in that first term. So I would definitely have benefited from this. Of course, all our teachers, professors and all this kind of stuff, they are all experienced. Some of them are Nobel Prize winners. You've got professors that have studied at Harvard and everything, Yale and Princeton, you name it. So really, really well experienced. And then we don't want you just to go to an amazing university because of its academic ranking and all this kind of a rating. We want you to enjoy yourselves. So there are a lot of social programs that you can get involved in. There are events, there are clubs. And even if you don't know how to go about it and what's the procedure and the steps to get involved in all this kind of stuff, there is an amazing support team and a welfare support team there as well at the universities and centres to give you all the guidance. Whether that guidance be to get involved in all these sort of bits and bobs, or it could be to the fact that you want to do some work alongside your study, or you've got like visa questions or something. It could be the fact you're feeling a bit homesick and you need someone to speak to. You might be struggling in a module or something. So whatever it may be, our support team are there to give you everything that you require. And you do have full access to university facilities, whether you're going for direct entry, so you're jumping straight into your degree, or whether you're doing that pathway bridge course. You are a university student, so whatever it is that the university has to offer their students, you have full access to it as well. Libraries, clubs, events, and all this kind of stuff, gyms. And then also with our pathways, we do so well at preparing our students that when students go on to continue their degree at the university, they do as well as those home students, if not better, basically. So you are basically ahead of the game for most of the time. Now, talking about studying in the US and focusing a bit more about, you know, the general stuff that maybe parents in particular, or maybe looking at your CV, and employers will be looking at, they'll be looking at like the university and what's its ranking and such. So with our universities, the vast majority are either tier 1 research university, that were in the top 100 ranking university in US, or top 250 ranking worldwide. Now, a big question I get a lot, and more than I would say when it's at the undergraduate degree level, but more when it's to do with the masters, even though it's equally important, is whether it's accredited. I get that question a lot from master students that are looking to go on to do their masters. And yes, they are, whether that be to do with business and MBA programs or to do with engineering programs. So they are accredited, and in a second we can take a look at a few of the universities that you definitely are guaranteed that they are going to be accredited. And of course, as I mentioned, you know, we accept all types of different students depending on what they want to study. So here, talking about accreditation. Now I've done the abbreviations in red, as you can see, but going over them. So Oregon State University, University of South Florida, Colorado State University, George Mason, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and St. Louis University. They all are accredited, and that's where they be for like your accounting and business sort of things, or your engineering or such, accredited. And also there's one thing I would love all my students, or students in general, when they are looking to study in the US or worldwide, try and go for a STEM program if possible. I mean, major on study what you want to study, but if possible, check if that program is a STEM program or offers somewhere as a STEM, and we'll talk why in a second. So again, just to recap, things to consider when you are making an application, when you want to go and study, thinking about that teaching quality. It's not necessarily just the name of the university. Check out your professors. Who are they? What they've done, where they've been and such. Student satisfaction is key. And because with our universities, student satisfaction is always over 90%. It's normally around 97, 98%. And that means you're getting the whole package, because you can imagine you are not going to be in the classroom 24/7 basically. You're going to have hours at school or at university, and then you're going to have hours outside. So you want to make sure that you're enjoying everything that the campus, the university has to offer, and you're enjoying your surroundings, the environment and such. Of course, location, rank and facilities, and location. It might sound funny, but it really is important. And I think in particular for international students, whether that's to do with the location, that you want it to be very diverse and multicultural and such, so you feel like you can fit in better. And I have had students that way, where they've studied at a particular university in the US, and the university has been extremely high ranking. However, the student wasn't able to adapt to his surroundings, and decided in that case to transfer to one of our universities that had a lot more to offer. The father was his main focus, his priority was ranking, but we were able, of course, with our universities, give an amazing ranking, amazing student experience as well. And how can you stand out from the crowd? Because looking at the world today, the numbers in population is just increasing. And far more people are going to university now than back in the day. So what do you have to offer that your brother, your neighbor, your best friend can't offer? And that, of course, is about employability. And again, focus on STEM if possible. Now, a lot of students want to study and work at the same time. Now, you might want to work alongside your study, because you want to make some money, some pocket money or such, you know, or it might be to do the fact that you want to gain more experience and add more quality and content to that CV of yours. It's definitely possible. You can do up to 20 hours per week while you're studying, and you can even do up to 40 hours per week while during those breaks, so those holidays. Say, for example, we've got Christmas coming up soon, and then we have Easter and all this, so you can work full-time during them. And of course, there are so many different options that you can do. So there's like internships, and there's summer programs, research assistantships and such. So there's a lot to offer. And it will be all related to you know, the campus environment and such. And that's during your studies. But we can take it one step further and help you and assist you working in the US after you graduate. Now, if you're a graduate, then you can work in the UK. You work in the US for 1 year after graduation. However, if you do a STEM program, so STEM, it stands for, just if you didn't know, it stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So it sounds more like just like health and science. It's not, it does include like business and data and such like that as well. And we'll look at that in a bit more detail. So if you do a STEM program, you're a STEM graduate, you can work for 3 years. And we do give you the support. Again, our support team will help and assist you in the whereabouts and how to go through that kind of procedure. So you're not just left to it. There's always some help. Now, in terms of where you could work and all this kind of, all the different companies and organizations, well, here's just a glimpse at some of the names, and a lot of them probably you're very, very familiar with and have seen them about. Okay, so those are just a few. Now, with Into, as I mentioned, we work with a number of universities around the US, and it's not just in one particular region like East or West or whatever it is. It's all over the place. Now, I haven't got enough time, unfortunately, to cover all the universities, but I more or less can guarantee whatever it is that you are wishing to study, I expect that we do have an option for you. Now, here I'm going to cover some of the universities that are very popular with my students that approach me and agents that come with inquiries and such. But just before that, let's have a look at the university that we work with and things that we have to offer. So innovation, as I mentioned earlier about, you know, looking into who's going to be teaching you and such, even though we don't work with Harvard, for example, but a lot of our professors, they're either Nobel Prize winners or they've been to Harvard or Yale or such. So you'll be studying under these kind of people. So think about the possibilities and prospects that are ahead of you, basically, globally recognized. Yes, so of course you're coming to the US to study, but what's the point of studying in the US if you can't then go return home and find a job with a recognized degree? And you might not even want to go back home to Denmark. You might be wanting to go to Asia or somewhere, to the Middle East or wherever it may be, and gain more you know, experience and absorb even more flavor and such. Again, with our courses, as we covered earlier, very, very flexible. We've got plenty of choices to offer, work experience there, and the experience, the whole campus experience, the package that you're getting involved in, it's one to never forget, basically. So let's have a look at those universities. So USF. USF is very, very popular. USF stands for University of South Florida. Now, besides everybody knows where Florida is, and we know what kind of climate it has, our main campus is at Tampa. However, it has 3 campuses, all under the University of South Florida, also at St. Petersburg and Sarasota, Manatee as well. Now, a lot of students go here for a number of different reasons. I've had Middle Eastern students say, come here because one of the main reasons, not just that reason, but one of the reasons is to do with the climate and environment. Other students that are like particularly like self or family funded, they go there because it's far more affordable. They're going to an amazing ranked university at an affordable price. It's actually the second best affordable college for international students. And talking about that ranking, it is 3rd in the US and 30th in the world. Now, earlier we looked at, you know, all the universities, and we said there were over 4,200 in the US. It's 3rd in the US and 30th in the UK. So out of those over 16,000 universities, I would say that's quite good, basically. Now, when we talk about affordability, to complete a degree of around 4 years, so undergraduate degree, it can take around 4 years to complete an undergraduate degree, and that the tuition fee for that is normally somewhere under £70,000. Now, that does sound quite overwhelming when you hear that amount. I said pounds, sorry, dollars, $70,000. It can sound overwhelming, but breathe, because we're going to, in a sec, we will be looking at the return on investment. So, okay, you're putting that money, what are you going to get in return? And when I say when you're going to get in return, I don't mean like 5 years down the line after graduating, like starting salary. Let's take a look at the zeros that you'll be looking at. So it is quite affordable. It's very, very multicultural, multinational as well, with 4,700 plus international students, and they represent over 140 countries. So there's a lot to offer there. And again, I'm not going to go too much into detail, like the different courses that you have, whether it's business, engineering, law, you name it. USF is more or less got it there. And then another one that's very, very common, especially with my students, I would say, that want to study anything to do with health, and those others that anything to do with like the air, like, you know, rocket engineers or aviation, all that kind of stuff. They a lot of them will go for SLU. I mean, SLU is not just famous for that. I have a few here, the top industries: technology, biotechnology, banking and finance, healthcare and logistics. But yeah, we do get a lot of students inquiring about that. With their programs, a lot of them are STEM as well. In a sec, we will be taking a look at a number of programs that go under STEM. And the classrooms, the class sizes, they're quite small in comparison. So an average class size is about 28 students per class. Now, that might not sound common for universities, especially like US universities, especially if you're watching like TV, you see these big lecture rooms with hundreds and hundreds of students. But think of it, if you've got a class that's only around 28 students per class, then that gives you more one-to-one time with your professor. It gives you more time to interact, to negotiate and ask questions and such, and not feel overwhelmed. If you've got a question you want to ask your professor and you're in this huge lecture room, personally speaking, I'd probably note it down, maybe ask a friend later on, or maybe ask a professor on the side or such, just in case if my question sounds a bit silly. But if you're in like a classroom size, then you'll feel more relaxed, more at home, and the professor knows you, you know a professor, you're not just a bobblehead in this big lecture room. So there is a lot to gain there as well. And also to do with the health, they have been involved in a lot of discoveries that have contributed to life-saving vaccinations. So that also like includes things like to do with tuberculosis and hepatitis C, even influenza and such. And now they're involved with the battle against COVID-19 as well. So especially, again, if you want to study anything to do with health, consider SLU, definitely. And esports. Now, I never knew what esports was until literally maybe a month ago or something. Now, esports, just in case you don't know, turns out it's something that even my daughter, who's turning 9 soon, she's involved in. So basically, it's people watching people play games. My daughter's only 8, turning 9, so she plays a lot of that Minecraft, but she'll watch people play this game and she gets really, really involved. And I've seen pictures of people, like these huge venues where they're basically, and I think it was based in Hong Kong or China, and they were going to these events to watch people game. So it's a bit like going to the cinema, but even on a bigger, a much bigger scale. Now, I'm not saying go to school so you can learn how to game. What I'm saying is that you can get involved and learn how to make a profit from this new area. So, you know, things to do with merchandise and business and all this kind of stuff. Esports is a new big thing coming about. As I mentioned, like with aviation and such, SLU is definitely something to consider. And it turns out, this is really, really impressive when I found this out first, was that every NASA mission had a slew of graduates involved in that. Every now submission, so a lot there. Moving on, we've got OSU, so that's Oregon State University. It is one of my favorite universities in terms of the support that the staff has to offer. There's no demand too big. There's no, every question that you ask will be answered. Now, because of the time difference between the UK and the US, I usually get the answer the next day, but technically it's their first working day. And they're always happy to get involved and make sure that the students are having the best experience. And I think this university is particularly popular with parents because it is ranked #1 for being the safest campus in the US. And when you can consider it, especially when you're doing your undergraduate degree, it's the first time probably moving away from home, and it's so far, halfway around the world for a lot of people. It is quite daunting for the students, even I think more so for the parents. So being reassured that the staff are going to take extra care of their loved ones, basically, and they are going to be safe, that's reassuring. And it's actually very popular with the girls as well, especially when it comes to computer science graduates in the US. It's actually ranked 9th there. Again, very popular with international students there as well. And not just because of the girls and involved in engineering, I do think a lot when it comes to like engineering and their involvement there. So yeah, if you're thinking about engineering, consider OSU. And also in regards to OSU, if you're a very outdoorsy person, it's really good. I mean, whether it's greenery, hills, lakes, water, you name it, it's even within walking or driving distance, basically. So there's a lot. Then Drew. Now, Drew is very popular, especially to do with its location. But more than it to do with its location, let's focus on some of the statistics here as well. Actually, you might not know actually where Drew is because from the name, it's not very clear. So Drew is based in New Jersey, which is in like an hour or so away from New York. So amazing experience, life experience that you're going to gain there for 3 or 4 years or such. But let's look at the professors there. The professors there, they're amazing. They come from these recognized institutions. And again, the class sizes, the student-teacher ratio is 11:1. And the head of recruitment, once he was giving us a bit of a talk about, Drew and why is it so amazing? And he was saying, if you want a Harvard degree, then go to Harvard. But if you want to learn from a Harvard PhD, then come to Drew. Because a lot of people that teach at Harvard not necessarily are Harvard graduates themselves. And a lot of them involved are like graduate assistants or such. Whereas at Drew, all classes are taught, 0 classes are taught by graduate assistants there. It's also very, very safe, even though you're literally just an hour away from New York. It is the 3rd safest college town in the US. So you can be reassured, your family can be reassured that you are in a very safe environment. And, on the weekends or on a Friday night or something, you can have and enjoy New York and everything that it has to offer there as well. Okay, so let's move to the next one. And here's just an example. This is one of the professors at Drew, and he's a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. So yeah, again, considering medicine, maybe think about Drew as well. And talking about New York, we do have another one, Hofstra. And Hofstra is based in Long Island. It's only about 45 minutes by train or an hour by car to hit New York City there. Of course, naturally being very international and such. But what I like about this is that they have their students very, very focused. So by the time they've graduated, over 90% of them have either completed an internship where they were studying, or they've already accepted employment, so they know exactly where they're going to go, or they've already planned for, maybe they did the undergraduate degree and now they're going to go and do their postgrad. They've already planned that. So they have the students very, very much focused in what they want to do. And again, it has a variety of different courses and programs that it has to offer. But I think a lot of my students are drawn to Hofstra because it is very focused, but at the same time, it's in New York, basically. So there's a lot to gain from that as well. So and then another very popular, and the last of the universities that I'm actually going to be discussing today is George Mason University. If you don't know where George Mason is, it's basically Washington. It's only actually 24 kilometers from Washington, and actually door to door. So from campus all the way to the White House, it's only 45 minutes on the metro. So very, very close. Again, you can do it on a day, pop down to Washington, or, you know, for the weekend and spend your time there. And then we have a few statistics and rankings there as well. And normally, like when I talk about ranking statistics, I'll be like, it's top in so-and-so in business. It's, you know, the safest city, if I'm talking to parents a lot of the time. But I liked about this when doing the research, turned out that the location itself, Fairfax, was the second happiest city in the US. So yeah, you're going to be having a lovely experience there. And of course, there's a few other rankings there that you can see quite clearly on the screen too. Okay. STEM. So as I mentioned, we can talk a bit later about, you know, what you want to specialize and focus on, whether it be your undergrad or postgrad. But if possible, see if that program is a STEM program, because you'll benefit even more, because they are high in demand, because a lot of the grads weren't STEM graduates, and it's increasing now. So it'd be basically tomorrow's job. So be ahead of the game, be one step ahead. And there is technically in the US, the UK, and even actually in Europe, it was said that there's a crisis in terms of engineering skills. So they're looking for more STEM graduates to help them and get out of this technical crisis. You have higher salaries just by studying that program, it being STEM. You're adding more zeros to your salary. And of course, as mentioned earlier, you know, you do get the opportunity to work after you graduate, but it would only be 1 year if it wasn't a STEM program, whereas if it was a STEM, then 3 years. And again, it's not just for those scientists, those people in the health and science industry. It can even cover people studying like MBA programs and such. And here is a list of programs that maybe one of them is something that you do want to study. So yeah, so we've also got like supply chain management there, there's MBA, so not necessarily just for the scientists and then the engineers and such. All right, then let's take a look at the salary. So after spending, let's say an average of like 70,000 if we're looking at the University of South Florida, then okay, you've paid all that money. What are you getting in return? Look at the starting salaries here. I mean, you've got like 94 and a half there thousand. There's like, I mean, the lowest one they're just looking at, like in economy, would be like what, 57,600. So a lot, and that's starting. That's your first paid as soon as you like graduate. So there's a lot to gain there. So yeah, I'll just let you look at it for a moment. So yeah, going into hundreds of thousands, basically, you'll be getting paid. So in comparison, what you're actually putting in and what you're getting out, you will be getting a lot out of it. But to help you out, and this is my final slide, hopefully you haven't fallen asleep, talking about support, and I do mean financial support in this respect. There are scholarships available, and I know especially those that are self or family funded, it is really important to try and lower the cost as much as possible. So if you're doing direct entry, there are scholarships available, but me and my team, we have more influence on the pathway courses. But don't be alarmed if you don't see like direct entry here. It doesn't mean there isn't. There's plenty of scholarships available. So just looking at, for example, if you take the first one, just like USF, if you're doing an undergraduate degree pathway, so like international year one, the tuition fee is almost 26,000, but you can get a scholarship up to 8,500. So it takes down the price quite considerably there. And then we've even got the price there in euros and pounds to help out, basically. So yeah, there are definitely scholarships available. So any course that you're basically interested in, go to Mickey and say like what you want to study. And then of course here do his amazing work at looking at the courses. And then when it comes to scholarships, he's just going to buzz me and saying, so what can we give the student? I will always try and go for the max if possible. And that's basically all I have to say. So I'm going to stop sharing if possible. There we are.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Awisha, for this great presentation. So many opportunities in the US, and that's what's great about it, right? I'm just going to switch over to Danish again and talk a little bit about funding, and then we'll get back to you in regards to
you do your thing
at the end, all right? Godt. Jeg prøver lige at dele min skærm igen. Finansieringsmuligheder. Nu taler vi lidt omkring scholarships, som blandt andet er en mulighed for at finansiere uddannelse i udlandet. Heldigvis så, man kan sige, ja, uddannelse er gratis i Danmark, så vi er ikke helt vant til det her med, at man skal betale for sin uddannelse. Men det skal man rigtig mange steder i verden, inklusive USA, og det er en rigtig stor investering. Heldigvis så er der lidt at hente, der er lidt hjælp at hente fra for eksempel staten. Vi betaler meget i skat, men vi får også noget tilbage, og noget af det vi kan få tilbage fra staten, eller få med til at hjælpe os med at finansiere en uddannelse i udlandet, det er udlandsstipendie, eller udlandsstipendium. I princippet egentlig det her med, at man har en mulighed for i op til maks 2 år at få at tage sit taxametertilskud med til udlandet. Det vil altså sige det, som en tilsvarende uddannelse koster i Danmark. De penge kan man få med til at finansiere enten en hel uddannelse på kandidatniveau, eller et meritgivende studieophold, som er led i en dansk uddannelse på enten for eksempel bachelorniveau eller kandidatniveau. Satsen den afhænger af, hvad du studerer eller vil studere. Hvis vi kigger på studieophold, nu skal det nævnes de her igen, eller jeg gentager lige i forhold til de universiteter, som Into har samarbejdet med, så er det jo kun Oregon State University og University of South Florida i USA, hvor vi har mulighed for at hjælpe med studieophold, altså et semester, som går ind i ens danske uddannelse. Men de satser, eller de penge, man kan få med fra staten, hvis man tager på sådan et ophold, der er det for universitetsstuderende, altså det vil sige, hvis du læser på universitetet i Danmark, så er det fra 21.950 kroner og op til 45.700 kroner, at du kan få med for et semester, svarende til 30 ECTS-point, som et semester er eller udgør. Og typisk, jamen, så er det baseret på, hvad man studerer. Så humanistiske og samfundsvidenskabelige uddannelser, der er det ofte den lave sats på de der knap 22.000 kroner, man kan få med. Og ellers så er det ofte tekniske uddannelser, ingeniøruddannelser, IT-uddannelser, som udløser den høje sats af de her 45.700 kroner. Bemærk også, det har også en betydning, hvilke fag man vælger. Så selv hvis man for eksempel er ingeniørstuderende og berettiget til den høje sats, kan man risikere at få den lavere sats, men hvis man udelukkende for eksempel vælger businessfag det semester, man rejser afsted. Satserne har jeg også skrevet på her, blandt andet for studerende på professionsbacheloruddannelse, der varierer den en del mere. Studerende fra erhvervsakademiuddannelser mellem 28.000 og 54.000, og som led i maskinmesteruddannelsen 54.000. I realiteten er det mindre, man får med, men det er altså en publiceret sats, det her. Eller lige i hvert fald hvad hensyn til maskinmesteruddannelsen. For de øvrige, der er det ret retvisende også det, man kan forvente at få med. I forhold til SU, så kan man jo selvfølgelig også få det med, så længe man er berettiget til SU, og der hedder den brutto 6.321 kroner per måned, så kan man supplere med lån. Lån skal selvfølgelig betales tilbage, men der er nogle forholdsvis favorable vilkår i forhold til lav rente og så videre, tilbagebetalingsvilkår. 3.234 kroner kan man supplere med per måned. Så er der noget, der hedder udlandsstudielån. Og det er simpelthen i det tilfælde, hvor den studieafgift, du skal betale på det udenlandske universitet, er højere end det du får med i udlandsstipendium, så kan du finansiere det resterende, eller i hvert fald op til de her 109.903 kroner via udlandsstudielån fra staten. Det skal jo siges, man kan aldrig få mere med i udlandsstipendium, man kan aldrig låne mere i udlandsstudielån, end hvad den faktiske studieafgift er på universitetet. Hvis vi så hopper hen til det, der har været lidt mere fokus på, altså hele uddannelser, i det her tilfælde bliver det så, da man ikke kan få udlandsstipendium, desværre med til en hel bacheloruddannelse, men på kandidatniveau, altså når man har gennemført bacheloren og starter på kandidaten, eller masteren, som det jo hedder i USA, så kan man i op til 2 år få de her beløb med. For eksempel, hvis du læser en hel IT-uddannelse, så er det et ret pænt beløb, du kan få med, altså 182.800 kroner. Det er mange penge, og de skal jo altså ikke betales tilbage. Det er ikke et lån, det er udlandsstipendium, noget du får til at finansiere uddannelsen. SU og så videre er også stadig en mulighed. USA har bacheloruddannelser, som er 4-årige, og det er også lidt forkert at sige, fordi det afhænger selvfølgelig af, hvor mange fag du læser per semester osv. Men som udgangspunkt, eller normalvis, så vil det være til 4 år at gennemføre en bacheloruddannelse i USA. Det er til forskel fra herhjemme, hvor det jo normalt tager 3 år for en almindelig bacheloruddannelse, 3,5 år for en professionsbachelor. Og det betyder jo blandt andet, at SU ikke anerkender første år af en amerikansk bachelor, det man kalder freshman year, så der er altså ikke støtte fra, der er ikke SU til første år af en amerikansk bacheloruddannelse. Har man en IB-uddannelse, for eksempel internationale gymnasiale uddannelse, er der mulighed for at få merit og dermed starte på andet år af bachelor, og dermed så få SU med fra start. Udlandsstipendium kan du ikke få med til en hel uddannelse på bachelorniveau. Du kan godt få det med til et studieophold, som er en del af din bacheloruddannelse i Danmark. Så er det jo heldigvis sådan, at der også findes muligheder for finansiering fra andre kilder end lige netop staten. Der er legater, og det er nok en af de mest populære måder at finansiere tuition fees, altså studieafgiften på det udenlandske universitet. Legater kan komme mange steder fra. I det her tilfælde så refererer vi til legater fra private fonde i Danmark. Der er over 800 fonde faktisk, som støtter til den her, altså til studier og udlandsophold. Så det er rigtig meget, og tager selvfølgelig lidt tid at finde frem til, hvad det er, man lige er kvalificeret til at søge, men der plejer ofte at i hvert fald være mindst 30 fonde eller noget, man vil være kvalificeret til, og ofte også mere. Men det tager tid at finde frem til det, men det er altså tiden værd. Legater fra private fonde selvfølgelig, fra Danmark, selvfølgelig findes de også i udlandet, der kan de være lidt svære at finde, men der findes jo i hvert fald gode hjemmesider og så videre i Danmark, som har databaser med legater. Scholarships, når jeg siger scholarships, så er det lidt ligesom Awisha nævnte, at det er stipendier, som det udenlandske universitet giver, og typisk vil det så være en form for rabat, kan man sige, altså en reduktion i studieafgiften. Der findes selvfølgelig også full scholarships, det er ret svært at få, og ret usædvanligt. I de fleste tilfælde at få et scholarship er ikke svært, men så er det bare et delvis scholarship, som dækker en del af studieafgiften. Og rent faktisk er de fleste af de studerende, vi sender til USA på hele uddannelser, får altså en form for scholarships. Det betyder, at den publicerede studieafgift kan man ikke altid sådan regne med. Det kan være, at den måske på et universitet er meget høj, men til gengæld får stort set alle studerende måske 20, 30, 40, 50% scholarship, så er den reelle studieafgift jo væsentligt lavere. Så det kan være ret svært og ikke særlig gennemskueligt at sammenligne de forskellige universiteter og priserne. Du kan også have universiteter som for eksempel University of South Florida, som har en ret lav og meget det vi kalder affordable tuition, men der vil det til gengæld være ret svært at få et scholarship. Så man kan sige, at sammenlignet Drew University er meget dyrt, men til gengæld meget stor sandsynlighed for at få et stort scholarship, hvor University of South Florida er noget billigere, men ret svært at få et scholarship. Og nogle gange vil du ikke rigtig vide helt præcis, hvad vil være den bedste valg i forhold til økonomi og så videre, før du har søgt at blive optaget, for du får ofte først det endelige bud på, hvor meget du får i scholarship, når du er optaget. I nogle tilfælde har vi dog noget af informationen upfront og kan på den måde lave lidt af en sammenligning, især hvis du søger en af de her Pathways-programmer eller øvrige programmer, som Into tilbyder. Arbejde under dit studie, det nævnte Awisha også, at det er, når man er studerende i USA, op til 20 timer om ugen, man må arbejde, men altså kun på campus, altså kun på universitetet. Banklån, kassekredit er jo også en måde at finansiere. Hvis du skal til USA, så kræver immigrationsmyndighederne, at du kan dokumentere, at du har penge nok til det første akademiske år. Et akademisk år, det er typisk 2 semestre eller 9 måneder. Og det er jo også for at sikre, at du selvfølgelig kommer for at studere og har råd til det, og i og med, at man jo ikke må arbejde off-campus. Så det skal man lige være opmærksom på. Og det er det første år, man skal kunne dokumentere, at man har for. Kommer du til USA for kun at læse et semester, så er det selvfølgelig kun den periode, du skal vise, at du har penge nok til. Og der har hvert amerikansk universitet et estimat for, hvad et år koster. Hvad det koster i forhold til studieafgifter, hvad det koster i forhold til leveomkostninger. Personlig opsparing, skråstreg forældre, er jo også altid en fantastisk finansieringsmulighed, eller finansieringskilde. Det var sådan kort i forhold til, hvad skal man sige, i forhold til økonomi. Jeg tænker, at jeg kan lige oversætte, eller hvad kan man sige, nogle af de ting, som Awisha hun sagde, eller lige opsummere nogle af de ting, hun sagde omkring USA. Nu nævnte jeg det her med bacheloruddannelse, masteruddannelse. Det er selvfølgelig bachelor, som også kaldes undergraduate. Det er en uddannelse på bachelorniveau, altså som man kan søge ind på direkte efter sin gymnasiale uddannelse. Så er der en master, det er tilsvarende kandidatdelen af en kandidatuddannelse herhjemme, altså efter man har gennemført en bacheloruddannelse, kan man søge ind på en master. Det er lidt sjovt med USA, uddannelser som medicin, som jura, det er noget, man læser på kandidatniveau, og i princippet kan man have hvilken som helst bacheloruddannelse, og så søge ind på medicin eller på jura-studiet. Så det er lidt sjovt, og det viser også lidt den her fleksibilitet, der er i det amerikanske uddannelsessystem, at det er på den måde. Major nævnte Awisha også, hun nævnte også minor. En major, det er hovedfaget, kan man sige, hvis man skal oversætte det. Minor, det er sidefaget, og Awisha nævnte, der jo er den her fleksibilitet i det amerikanske system. Du kan starte på en uddannelse, og så faktisk først hen i andet år beslutte dig, eller ændre den major, altså det hovedfag, det du gerne vil studere i din uddannelse. Du kan kombinere med et sidefag, du kan have 2 hovedfag osv., så det er jo helt fantastisk. Man kan få en virkelig fantastisk skræddersyet uddannelse, når man læser i USA, og virkelig skille sig ud fra mængden og få lige præcis den profil, man gerne vil have. STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering and Math, bare lige for at opsummere, her rigtig mange studerer i USA for også at få muligheden for at komme ind på arbejdsmarkedet i USA, og der er det her med, gennemfører du en grad, så kan du arbejde 1 år via det her OPT, Optional Practical Training, inden for det du har studeret, er selvfølgelig kravene. Har du en uddannelse i noget teknisk, engineering, math, science, så kan du faktisk i hele 3 år arbejde i USA. Og der er jo, som Awisha også nævnte, det betyder ikke nødvendigvis, at det skal være en ingeniøruddannelse. Der findes altså også Master of Science in Business uddannelser, som sådan set godkendes som STEM-uddannelser, og dermed kan give dig erhvervserfaring, 3 års erhvervserfaring i USA. Vil man så blive længere i USA, så handler det selvfølgelig om at få overbevist ens arbejdsgiver om, at de skal fortsætte med at sponsorere et arbejdsvisum. Før vi lige, selvfølgelig, I må meget gerne begynde at stille spørgsmål. Enten så kan I skrive dem ind i chatten, eller også så kan vi også lige slå jeres mikrofon til om et øjeblik. Før vi lige går dertil, så er det bare lige at observere i forhold til Studysea. Hvad kan man sige, og hvorfor det giver mening for jer at benytte jer af vores hjælp. Ja, det koster ikke noget. Den er gratis. Du får personlig vejledning gennem hele ansøgnings- og vejledningsforløbet, og 98% af vores ansøgere optages. Du kan søge med kort varsel, og med det sagt, så henviser jeg i det her tilfælde mest til sammenligning med, når man søger studieophold, kortere ophold igennem sin uddannelsesinstitution, hvor fristen ofte ligger 1 år i forvejen. Når vi taler hele uddannelser, så ja, nogle tilfælde er der rolling admissions, det vil sige, at man kan søge løbende, og andre tilfælde har uddannelsen en specifik ansøgningsfrist. Gratis verificering af eksamenspapirer. ja, vi har ikke som sådan begrænsning på studiepladser. Vil du rejse afsted med en ven eller kæreste eller flere, jamen så har vi mulighed for det i de fleste tilfælde at hjælpe med det også. Vi giver tips til legatsøgning, eksempel på den gode ansøgning. Du kan møde andre studerende via vores Facebook-grupper, så bliver du efter afsluttet ophold en del af vores alumne-netværk, og så tilbyder vi mulighed for at studere på et af verdens bedste universiteter, eller måske mest populære universiteter eller destinationer. Over 70, det vil sige i dag over 80 forskellige universiteter i hele verden. Overblik over økonomien og finansieringsmuligheder, budgetskabeloner og så videre kan vi hjælpe med. Og så står der her undtagelse i optagelseskriterier. En ting er, hvad der står på universiteternes hjemmeside. Ofte, ikke alle steder, men ofte kan der være en del fleksibilitet omkring det. Og det er jo vores opgave, kan man sige, at gøre, hvad vi kan for at hjælpe jer med at blive optaget på det pågældende universitet, for at forklare uddannelsessystemer og så videre herhjemme over for, i det her tilfælde, de amerikanske universiteter. Next step, om man så kan sige, er du interesseret i at vide mere, har du brug for noget vejledning, så tag endelig fat i os, book et vejledningsmøde. Er du klar til at ansøge, så tag også fat i os, så får du fra os en ansøgningsvejledning, der ligesom lister alle de her forskellige dokumenter op og så videre, som skal bruges til sådan en ansøgning. Og min mail, mickey@studysea.dk. I skal altid være velkommen til at skrive eller ringe. Jeg vil nu stoppe optagelsen, og så går vi over til at besvare spørgsmål. Og skal vi se, hvor vi gør det.